well known, deals with Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or anyone who imitates the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an enjoyer. And Prakriti means nature. In this material world, material nature is being exploited by the Purushas, or the living entities. The intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and Purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or material entanglement. Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found the suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. The tree of material existence is explained in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as an ashwata tree, whose root is upwards and whose branches are downwards. It is recommended there that one has to cut the root of this material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is that attachment? The attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities in the guises of men and women are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and the so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. The living entities are considered Prakriti. In Bhagavad Gita, matter is analyzed as apara, or inferior nature, whereas beyond this inferior nature, there is another superior nature, the living entities. Living entities are also Prakriti, or enjoyed. But under the spell of Maya, the living entities are falsely trying to take the position of enjoyers. This is the cause of samsara bandha, or conditional life. Devahuti wanted to get out of conditional life and place herself in full surrender. The Lord is Sharanya, which means the only worthy personality to whom one can fully surrender, because he is full of all opulences. If anyone actually wants relief, the best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord is also described here as Saddharma Vidam Varishtam. This indicates that of all transcendental occupations, the best occupation is eternal loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dharma is sometimes translated as religion, but that is not actually exactly the meaning. Dharma means actually that which one cannot give up, that which is inseparable from oneself. The warmth of fire is inseparable from fire. Therefore, warmth is called the dharma, or nature of fire. Similarly, saddharma means eternal occupation. That eternal occupation is engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The purpose of Kapila Deva's Sankhya philosophy is to propagate pure, uncontaminated devotional service. And therefore he is addressed here as the most important personality amongst those who know the transcendental occupation of the living entity. Tam tvagataham sharanam sharanyam subritcha samsara taro kutaram jigyasayaham prakrite purushasya namami saddharma vidam varishtam. Devahuti continued, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet because you are the only person of whom to take shelter. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances unto you for the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman and between spirit and matter. So there are three distinct sections of this verse. The first is Devahuti having gone to the right place to take shelter, in order to get freedom from the material existence. The second is that Kapila Deva is the axe by which the tree of material existence may be chopped. And the third is that she also wants to know which is the basic main point, the difference and the knowledge surrounding Prakriti and Purusha, which is translated in two ways. Prakriti and Purusha may be translated in terms of male and female, and Prakriti and Purusha may be translated in terms of spirit and matter. So there are quite a few elements in this verse. The first element, we can start at the last. Just like the tree of material existence is a reflection of the tree of the spiritual sky. And therefore, the top of the tree, or the beginning of the tree, is actually the bottom of the tree. Because in the reflection, the root turns downwards, connecting to the other root. So the beginning of the tree, as it hangs into this material world, is actually the bottom of it, the root. And the top of the tree, where the tree is fully manifested, is actually the bottom of the tree. So therefore we'll start at the bottom of the verse. Jigyasayaham prakrite purusasya. Now, Devahuti wants to know about this situation wherein one is dealing with Prakriti and Purusha. What does it mean? What are the implications? Where will it get us? What's to be done? Certainly, this material world is running on the principle of Prakriti and Purusha, and everybody can understand that. That activities are simply going on in relationship of male and female. That we are all very inspired to act simply because there's somebody of the opposite sex involved. And where there is not, the inspiration to act becomes very much less. This is also an economic principle, spoken by some economist who I forgot his name. Probably it's good I forgot his name. And it is a principle which is running the economy of the material world. If there weren't women, the men would just go to sleep under a tree somewhere, and there wouldn't be any economic development. So because of that, economies develop around the family structure, around the desire to have more, or expand, or do better. So this Prakriti Purusha is an essential element in mundane society in order for it to develop. It is also an ingredient recognized very clearly in the Varnashram structure. Therefore there is the Grihastha Ashram, whereby the relationship between a man and woman may be regulated so that it may be used in a positive fashion. But in fact, this really is not the subject matter of Prakriti and Purusha, in essence. And Prabhupada mentions that in this verse also. Although in fact in Sanskrit, Prakriti means the female. It's a feminine case, and it means female. And Purusha is the male case, and it means male. In fact, what it means, it is implying, Purusha is the enjoyer, Prakriti is the enjoyed. Now, according to certain cultures, long dead, the male is the enjoyer and the female is the enjoyed. Like we said, long dead cultures. So, therefore, the tradition has passed it down that Prakriti refers to the female in a discussion, and Purusha refers to the male in some discussion. Therefore, sometimes when we read like that, we get a little confused and wonder why the words are being used like that. But the fact is that they used to be used like that because society used to be sane in the past. Now society is insane, therefore nobody can figure out why use words like this. So, therefore the explanation. Now, in fact, it is recognized that the terminology Prakriti and Purusha in reference to male and female is not actually correct, no matter what society you're in. And Prabhupada mentions that in this purport and many purports, that both think themselves Purusha. Just like when there is this famous verse, Pumsam Striya Mituni Bhava Setak Tayor Mito Hudaya Granti Ahu, which describes exactly how everybody becomes entangled in the material world in illusion. This verse does not use the words Purusha and Prakriti, but uses the words Pumsa Striya, which specifically refer to man and woman. Because, in fact, both are imitative Purushas. Imitating Purusha, the enjoyers. The man thinks he's the enjoyer of the woman thinks she's the enjoyer of the man. And that's all there is to it. Everybody thinks he's the enjoyer. We don't find anywhere, at any time, that anybody within the material world thinks of himself as anything else than the enjoyer, because that's why we're here. We have come here in this situation, in this world, because we think of ourselves as the enjoyers. We think we are the enjoyers. We think we are to arrange things in such a way that we'll be very satisfied and happy with everything we do. And that's the long and the short of it. So, this situation is recognized, that everybody thinks himself the Purusha. And Krishna says it too in the Bhagavad Gita. We mentioned yesterday, repetition of a good verse is a good thing. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti cha gunan. Everybody is wandering through the different species of life, situations of life, thinking themselves the enjoyers within this material world. Everybody. But amongst those who think themselves the enjoyers, some know that they are in Maya, thinking themselves the enjoyers, under the influence of the ahankara principle, and some do not know. Those who do not know, they are absorbed within the ahankara principle that I am the enjoyer. Those who do know may be influenced by the ahankara principle that I am the enjoyer, but they do not make it so that this is the sum and substance of their existence. They know that this is a manifestation of Maya, and therefore they do not take it all that seriously. Isn't it? Right. Enthusiastic audience participation. So, in fact, Purusha, Kriti, in this world we are basically dealing with Purusha. Now, is that correct? No. It's correct only from the point of view of the ahankara, which is a product of Maya. From the point of view of reality, it's completely false. Because nobody's the enjoyer. Although I may think myself the enjoyer, and you may think yourself the enjoyer, in fact, we're all the enjoyed. We're all Prakriti. Everybody's exploiting everybody else all the time. We are serving others all the time. And above all, we are serving the external energy of the Lord all the time. Otherwise, we're serving the internal energy of the Lord. We are Prakriti. But we think ourselves Purusha, and that is Maya. Ahankara. Vimudatma. Because we are rather unintelligent, to put it nicely. We are wrapped up in the consideration that we are, these bodies and this world is meant for our enjoyment, that we are the Purusha. But no, we are Prakriti. Therefore, the real understanding of things is that we are just the small particles of energy which have become lost within the vast pit of the ahankara. And therefore the darkness of ignorance has overwhelmed us. Therefore, when we speak prayer, praise the spiritual master, we may, to invoke auspiciousness, we may say, Om Agyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. We are, in fact, offering prayer that the spiritual master has forced open our eyes which were shut tight by the darkness of ignorance. He's forced it open with the torchlight of knowledge. So, the in fact point here is that everybody's bewildered by Purusha Prakriti dichotomy without factually understanding what is the truth behind the situation. And in the only way one may understand the situation properly is when one engages himself in invoking auspiciousness or trying to get the mercy of some authority in spiritual life. And Devahuti, to get to the second and first elements of this verse, says to Kapila Dev, you are that personality. You are that personality who will give me that knowledge by which I will be able to become fully Krishna conscious. Not only that, but she says, you're the axe by which I may cut that tree of material entanglements. The axe is there. Now, in one sense, that's a very interesting, of course in many senses probably far beyond what I can understand, but anyway, I just thought of something, so I say in one sense. So in one sense, one can understand how this example is very nice. That the axe means a piece of metal on a wood. There's a handle made of wood. There's a piece of metal on the end of it which is sharpened. So you chop a tree using the tree. There's a saying in Bengali, the axe to chop the tree comes from the tree itself. By taking a branch of the tree you can form a handle, and by putting an axe head on the top of the handle you can chop the tree. So you can use the thing itself to chop it down. That example, of course, is used in terms of uprising and disturbance within one's own family or society, which can cause destruction of that self-same society. But in this example, Devahuti is saying, you are the axe by which I may chop this tree. And yet it's relevant because the handle does come from the material world. In Sankhya philosophy, the analysis of the material existence is the essential ingredient, and that comes from the material existence itself, the knowledge of material nature. So in one sense, not the complete sense, but in one sense, the knowledge of the material existence, which comes from the Sankhya philosophy, is the means by which one can cut the tree of material entanglement. Once you know that tree, just like Krishna says this again in more detailed manner in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when he speaks about the Ashwatha tree, the banyan tree, with its roots upwards and its branches downwards. Again, because the tree is a reflection of the spiritual world, and the spiritual world, everything is right side up. The material world, because it's a reflection, is upside down. And the root of the tree is at the top and the branches are at the bottom. So therefore Krishna starts off by saying, there is a tree wherein the roots are upwards and the branches are downward. And the leaves and branches and the vines, they all represent different things, like fruitive activities, Vedic knowledge, Vedic hymns for elevation or degradation. No, there are no Vedic hymns for degradation. Activities of degradation also work in the same way. The different species of life are situated at different portions of the tree. So he gives the example like this. And then he says that one who knows this tree can get out of the entanglement of this tree, can cut it at the root in his own particular case. So knowledge of the tree of material existence is an essential ingredient. It is not the sufficient ingredient, but it is the necessary ingredient in order to become liberated from the material existence. It is not sufficient because simply knowledge of Maya is only one half of it. Yeah. Therefore it is stated in the Yushopanishad, Vijayam Vijam Chayas Tadvedo Bhayam Saha Vinashena Micham Tirtva, that one must know both the knowledge of transcendence, vidya, and the knowledge of nescience, avidya, simultaneously. Then one can taste the amrita of eternal existence. You cannot just simply be satisfied with knowing perfectly well the material existence, the prakriti. For you may know the prakriti in all sorts of ways, but that does not mean you will necessarily be able to expand up to the point of actual surrender to Krishna. One has to know the knowledge or science of Krishna consciousness as well. Therefore, Devahuti says, Tam tva pitaham sharanam sharanyam. I am going to you because you are the most capable of granting me shelter. Generally, such statements are therefore statements. They are conclusions after descriptive verses. We find in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are many such statements chained to descriptions of the miseries of the material world, of the entanglements that come from birth and death, of the way in which one becomes situated and unable to break free from the disturbing conditions of Maya. After describing suffering in various ways, therefore I surrender, or therefore you should surrender. Even if you have gone up to the heavenly planets, still the entanglement of the material nature is there, and one will fall again. Therefore, just try and find a spiritual master who will be able to enlighten one into the absolute truth and bring one out of the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, tasmat, therefore. And here, this is how do we call it? Implied, therefore. After having gone through so many descriptions, she says, I've come to you. I've come to you to take shelter. Why? Because you've got knowledge. After all, you are, in this case, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. She knew that perfectly well. She knew, you are the Supreme Lord. You are that one who is the source of all knowledge. Therefore, I surrender unto you. Therefore, she did. And Kapila Dev enlightened her, just like Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita, that he will enlighten within the heart. Jnana dipena bhasvata. He makes this Jnana Dipa. Dipa means a lamp. And the lamp of knowledge, which situates within the heart, enlightens one and gives one understanding of himself. Gives one understanding of reality, the situation of surrender. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? After all, if you don't understand yourself as separate from the material nature, you have no knowledge. One must see himself as something different than the material energy. One must see himself as spirit, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss, and the material energy as ignorant, temporary, and a place of suffering. And when one sees this very clear distinction between places of suffering and places of blissfulness, and he can identify himself amongst the places of blissfulness, amongst those personalities there in the spiritual realm, then he's actually got knowledge. Otherwise, there is only illusory knowledge. Something which seems to be knowledge, but which in fact is not knowledge at all. Illusory knowledge. It seems to be knowledge. It seems to be very nice. It seems that, yes, I am part of this material existence. It's obvious, here I am, and look, here's how we manipulate the material existence in this way, that way, the other way. And here's how we will enjoy in the material existence in so many ways. Although it may seem to be very great knowledge, and you can write books and books and books, and win Pulitzer Prizes and Nobel Prizes, and this prize and that prize, but still at the end of life you win the prize of a new body. And there comes no cash award with it either. You get nothing. When you win the prize, you get nothing. Not even a set of clothes. Pulled out straight as it is. Nothing. You get whacked in the rear as you're welcome into the material world in this new body. Whack! Ah! And here you are, hanging upside down in the hands of the physician. Isn't that nice? And this is the prize we get from all of our attachment in the material existence. So, it is advised not to be too attached, not to maintain knowledge that is of the material nature, not to maintain knowledge which is born of ignorance, because although we may think that's very nice knowledge, in fact it is the cause of our bondage. There are many things which are seemingly very nice in the beginning, but which at the end cause the destruction or great disturbances. Something which in the beginning may seem very nice, but in the end turns to poison. That which is in the beginning like nectar, in the end like poison, is of the mode of passion, and it generally causes one all kinds of trouble. Did I ever give the example here of my friend in this car? Yes? No? Yes? No? No? I think I'm being forced anyway. It's like a cheering gallery, don't you? Anyway, so I have this one friend. Used to be friend. So, now, he had they were a very wealthy family, owned a department store chain in New York City. So, upon turning 17 in America, everybody gets a car. If you come from a little more better placed family, you get a car. So, he was older than all the rest of us, so he got his car. In those days, this was considered one of the top cars, a real souped-up Ford Mustang. Anyway, times change. So, we were all on the block. Everybody's envious like anything. We used to watch him tear from stop sign to stop sign, with the wheels screaming and the pebbles flying here and there. And we were all envious like anything. Ooh, he got his car. So he used to, of course, come and pick us up so we could also go from stop sign to stop sign, screaming with the rubber and the smoke and the this and that, and be impressed. So this seemed to have been the means by which enjoyment could take place. And certainly, I would suppose, for us dull fellows who had nothing better to do than to scream from stop sign to stop sign, this was certainly a source of enjoyment. And especially for he who was driving and whose car it was, this was like, not only a source of letting the wind blow through your hair in the open window, but it was also a means by which you could be better than everybody else. So, this was a very great source of enjoyment. So then a little later on, so about, I think 3-4 months after getting the car, not longer, I got a phone call one day that said that, well, this friend, he was driving out to his summer house, and he drove into a tree because he fell asleep. So he's now in the hospital. Why don't you go visit him? All right, so we go visit, and there he is with one arm in the cast and one arm in the other cast and both legs in the cast, and they're all lifted up, because he could not move, so they kept him suspended off the bed because his back was in the cast and his ribs were all broken and his head was in the bandage and everything. And he was just laying there, like straight out of the movie. Yeah. And he fell asleep in his nice car. So although it was so nice, it was a source of so much enjoyment, it became the source of intense suffering for many months. 3-4 months he was in that situation. So afterwards you would think that now he would learn his lesson, right? And that he would understand that this car was not the source of enjoyment, but was the source of much more suffering than there was ever enjoyment, right? Wrong. Yeah. His father, being very kind and soft-hearted, gave him another Ford Mustang with the same big, huge engine that tore from stop sign to stop sign as soon as he could get out of the hospital. So, about 2 or 3 months after this, not longer, I got a phone call one day. So-and-so friend, well, he fell asleep again. And this time he drove off a bridge and landed upside down on a railroad track as the train was coming. This accident was so famous, they published it in the back page of Life magazine. In Life magazine, the old Life magazine, they used to have the picture of the week. They published that picture of his accident in the picture of the week, with the car upside down on the railroad track with the train sitting there, which just happened to stop just in time. Yeah. He had driven along, the bridge, the bridges usually have these external things. So he was driving so fast and so asleep that he went on the other side with 2 wheels hanging in the air and 2 wheels on the bridge. So the car went straight halfway across a very big bridge and landed upside down. And it was so spectacular, they put it in a magazine. So we went to the hospital. This time he was not capable of speaking to us, with again the same situation, everything, everywhere, but completely unconscious. Yeah. And that took 6 months to recover from. And I remember, at that time, even though being a dull fellow myself, I got very afraid of automobiles. Yeah. Thinking, this is supposed to be the source of your enjoyment, but in fact, it's the source of so much suffering. Yeah. And then, actually, I started making an analysis of all various forms of things which I thought were enjoyable. This was something that led me to join the movement. Yeah. We all had motorcycles, of course. So then I saw the statistics on motorcycles. Yeah. That there's an absolute chance that you're going to have a fatal or near-fatal accident. 50% chance. A fatal or near-fatal accident when you have your motorcycle. So we sold it. All other things we found out. How you can be killed in this material world so easily. How you can suffer. And all these things which are so enjoyable. Yeah. All different aspects. We don't want to go through the whole sordid mess of previous activities which were given up one after another. Of course, we got so crazy and fanatical we stopped eating even. Because we found out how food can kill you in different ways. So we didn't even eat anymore. But when you analyze the material world, even as a gross materialist, and you start thinking of the ways in which this material nature causes you trouble, how it gives you trouble, how it gives you struggle, how the relationships of the material world give you pain, even though you think they're so nice. And Krishna always supplies some nice trouble when you're a little sincere, and you can understand it more deeply. You see trouble here, trouble there, even if you're not personally suffering yet. Yeah. But you can see it coming if you look a little carefully. Then by analysis like this, he can even understand. Look at the world situation. Yeah. Look at how there are so many bombs over here and bombs over there and bombs over in the other place. Then they got so many chemicals over here, chemicals over there, chemicals in the other place to blow you up with, chemicals, or biological germ warfare. Or they don't even need all of that. All they need is one reactor that blows up. And then we get covered, raining down radioactive particles. Still, they're rejecting food that comes from these parts because it's so radioactive. And you don't even need that. You don't even need a reactor. You just need 1 or 2 Sandoz factories or Ciba-Geigy factories in Basel to pollute the whole Rhine and destroy everything. In fact, if you just analyze it in different ways, how this whole thing is just sitting like this. And even if everybody's not killed all of a sudden, somebody can be killed all of a sudden. And even if you don't get killed, you can suffer like anything. In this way you become really crazy and end up in the insane asylum, just biting your nails all day. And when you analyze the material world in this way, you can start to see this place is mad. We're in a madhouse here. And you run to the nearest Hare Krishna temple. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You run. You can see everything's nuts. And at any moment, it'll just all crack to pieces, either for everybody, or just for somebody, or a group of somebodies. But don't expect this material world is going to give you any shelter. That's for sure. Just don't expect it. It's not. There's nothing about this material world which is nice. All right, let's admit. Maybe 5 minutes a lifetime. There's something nice about it. And for that, one works forever. One works forever. One may become completely absorbed in some material enjoyment. And during that period of time, he becomes so attached to that pseudo-bliss which came from that complete absorption that he just forever wants to go on searching after that bliss. It's always like that. Everything. There's a little bit of pseudo-bliss, and we search after it again and again. In any activity. Just like when you, we have experience of the pseudo-bliss of playing music. With a lot of people completely absorbed, screaming. Then you just get completely wrapped up in it. Like, ooh, complete samadhi. The actors, they feel that sometimes. Race car drivers feel that sometimes. People who make movies feel that sometimes. Everybody, they get this little bit of pseudo-bliss from complete absorption and doing it perfectly. I suppose in each and every field, there's this bliss that comes when you're just getting completely into it and you taste something, and then you want to go for that. Just like The Perfect Wave, they had a movie. Some madmen just kept going around the world trying to find a wave to surf on, Or the perfect mountain to jump off of. They jump off of mountains. Just to taste that which you get by chanting Hare Krishna. Actually, they're all looking for that which you get by chanting Hare Krishna. And therefore, when you get the knowledge of the material existence and you see it clearly, you see clearly what you're looking for, what you're trying to get, and what in fact you do get. Then you understand. Just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and stop chasing the witch of Maya. Stop chasing the material existence and get nothing out of it except pain, suffering, condition, boredom, intense anxiety, a lot of paranoia, and insanity. What to speak of old age, disease, and death, which are an awful lot worse. Therefore, one has to have an understanding of what we've got before you can actually appreciate it. We've got something quite good here. This Krishna consciousness movement is something quite good because we don't have what the materialists have. We may have some problems, sure, but those problems are problems which help us to surrender, push us to surrender. Materialist problems, even if they solve them, what do they get? More problems. But a spiritualist, when he's working, even if he's got problems, at the end, when he solves the problems, he's got Krishna. That's the whole difference. We may have problems, but when we solve our problems, we're moving in the direction of surrender. When a materialist has got problems and he solves his problems, he just gets more problems. The whole material world is made of solving problems. That's all it is. You get a problem and you work to solve it. That's what material existence is all about. Yeah. So everybody's engaged simply from that. Somebody gets sick, so you need a doctor to solve the problem. Yeah. Get a hole in your tooth, you need a dentist to fix the problem. Yeah. Your hair grows too long, you need a haircut to solve the problem. Go to the barber. Yeah. Your clothes aren't in fashion, or they're getting old, or you outgrow them because you get too fat. You go to the store to solve the problem. Just to maintain all of this, you got to work to solve the problem of how to get the money. Yeah. If you just analyze every single activity, it is a solution to a problem. If there were no problems, then no one would do anything. If there were no problems, we wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't eat because we wouldn't need to, because there was no problem of hunger. We wouldn't sleep because we wouldn't need to, because there was no problem of being tired. We wouldn't mate because we wouldn't need to, because there was no problem of desires. We wouldn't do anything. We would be like a vegetable. Therefore, the material world has engaged us in a very marvelous process of solving an unlimited mountain of problems. And all day long, all we're doing is running around solving problems. Isn't that nice? And some people think this problem-solving process is very exciting. But what they don't realize is it never ends. And not all problems can be solved. Like at one point, you die. You cannot solve that problem. At one point, you grow old. That problem's not solved either. And you suffer. Oh, yes, you suffer. Don't worry. It does happen, even to you. Yes, you get old and you suffer. Right. And it's a problem and you cannot solve it. No. And there are many problems you cannot solve. So why should we work to try to solve material problems? Just accept material problems, work for the sake of Krishna and Krishna consciousness, and solve the problems of being wrapped up in Maya, and get out of Maya. Then this will make the perfection, the solution, the real solution to all the real problems of life. Understand the material nature, understand its power, understand its entangling aspect, and thus become detached from it, and work hard to go back home, back to God. This is the solution to the real problem. All right, Harikesa.